everyone, and welcome to our regular council meeting, February 25th, 2025. And I call the meeting to order at 5:35, and I will ask the clerk for the roll call, please.
Mayor Sidney.
Present.
Revimo.
Present.
Councillor Legree.
Present.
Councillor McWhorter.
Present.
Councillor McDonald.
Present.
Councillor Sobalski. And confirming not online. Councillor Andrew Dick.
Present.
Mayor Sidney, you do have quorum.
Thank you very much. As we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of our council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for the many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all of the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Can I please have you stand for O Canada? Any declarations of interest? Hearing none from council. I actually have one, first time ever, for C.2.1 and E.1.1 as the property that you're going to discuss I back onto that. So I will not be sitting in this chair. Revimo will be taking over that portion of the meeting. So with that being said, I'm going to get oh no, I got one more thing first. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I'd like to take a moment on behalf of myself and council to recognize someone who has dedicated an incredible 36 years to our community. Since 1988, Susan Klink has been a pillar to the children's department of our library. Serving as the children's librarian and coordinator over the years, she's worked under 5 library CEOs, leaving a lasting impact on generations of young readers. Her creativity and passion for the literacy was evident in everything she did, from designing the beloved TD Summer Reading Club game board, which brought joy to so many children, to bringing stories to life as the much-loved Ranger Susan, whether volunteering at school or community events, or simply sharing her love of books. She's made reading an adventure for children and families in our community. Susan, your dedication, enthusiasm, and kindness have made a difference in countless lives. On behalf of the entire community, we thank you for your years of service and for inspiring the love of reading that will carry on for generations to come. We wish you all the best in a well-earned retirement. So. So if I could have Susan come up to the front here, and Director Latondres as well.
Okay, grab a ice cream before you leave. All right. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Congratulations. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
I would now like to ask Revimo to come and assume the chair, please.
I'd like to call the public meeting to order and open it at it's on Tom's, 5:40 p.m. Can I have Director Withers, if you could lead us through this, please?
Yes, thank you, and through you, Reeve Emo. So thank you all for coming tonight. For those in attendance for the public meeting, this is a public meeting in relation to Official Plan Amendment number 14, being the Renfrew East secondary plan. So the purpose of the public meeting tonight is to hear comments from members of the public in regards to the proposed plan. All members in attendance tonight, all members of the public in attendance tonight who wish to provide oral comments will have the opportunity to do so. So feel free to come forward as you feel led to do so. Of course, following these brief remarks here. Any and all comments and information submitted, whether orally in writing, and this is just a note, including any identifying information, becomes part of the public record. Okay, it could be made publicly available at any point, including on the town's website and other electronic forms of publication, in accordance with Planning Act requirements. And just before speaking, anyone who comes to the microphones, just ask to clearly state their name and address for the record, okay? And if you would, just before you leave, of course, and if you would like, please add your contact information to the public meeting sign-in sheet. That'd be great. Just in regards to appeal rights, so this is just a note, and we have to follow the Planning Act in regards to these things. But in regards to the appeal of council's decision ultimately on this, so that is not being made tonight. Tonight is for the public meeting, for council to hear your comments and to consider the written comments received. The revised and updated secondary plan will come forward to council subsequently. But following the county's decision, so this town council will adopt the secondary plan, and it'll then go to the county for final approval. So after that point, only the applicant, in this case the town's the applicant for this, the registered owner of any land specifically to which the plan or the bylaw applies, so you have to be within the plan area, okay, and specified public agencies. So those are the only parties that under the Planning Act now are able to appeal the decision of the county on the matter once that decision's been made. And if you would like a notice of decision, just if you could either send an email to the clerk or to myself. I do have business cards that I can provide you with, or just indicate on the sign-in sheet that you would like a notice of decision. We can let the county know that. Okay. So just in regards, I mentioned that this is a public meeting with respect to the Renfrew secondary plan. The secondary plan involves about 250 acres of land to the southeast of the Algonquin Trail, east and west of Whitten Road, north of the trail, and about 214 acres of town-owned land. And a map of the secondary plan, the draft secondary plan, the schedules, they're all available on the town's website. They were posted along with this agenda on the town's website. They're also available through the town's website on a platform called Zen City Engage. And we uploaded the materials to that for public information review. So just feel free, and if you need some assistance navigating to that, just let me know. I'd certainly be glad to help you with that. Okay, but as noted, 250 acres of land, 214 acres of which are owned by the town. On November 12th, 2024, Council adopted the draft secondary plan, or gave direction to prepare the secondary plan, and then earlier this year, Council adopted the draft secondary plan text and map schedules for consultation. I've got a report that's for later on the agenda that includes a summary of the written comments that are received, and so that'll follow the opportunity that everyone will have to provide oral comments. In terms of the consultation to date, earlier on, and there would have been notice issued similar to what was issued for this public meeting. There was a combined public information center and open house that was a joint meeting with the Whitten Road Closure Environmental Assessment that was held on November 20th, 2024 at the MyFM Center. There was a notice of application and public meeting that went out on January 29th, 2025. In accordance with prescribed notice requirements, it would have gone out, or it did go out to 120 meters within and from the plan area, and was posted on municipally managed websites, including the town's website, Facebook, and Zen City Engaged. The newspaper, it's not a prescribed notice method any longer, but it was used just given the scope of the amendment and to get the greatest breadth of notice. Consultation with agencies was also undertaken on January 29th, and we did receive a number of responses. As noted, the information has been made available on Zen City Engage and the town's website throughout the course of the project, and the final consultation item being the public meeting this evening. So those will conclude my comments, and I think at this time we can invite members of the public forward to provide their comments. Thank you.
Members of the public, if you could let me know who you are when you assume the chair, and to council, again, just a reminder to ask questions through me if you don't mind, please. And I apologize, I wasn't texting anybody. I have a new phone. I was trying to figure out how to shut it off. Thank you. So do we have someone who would like to address Mrs. Mask?
My name is Bonnie Mass. I live at 811 Gillen, Renfrew, Ontario. Mr. Emo. There you go. Thank you. Mr. Emo, councils, and especially the people that came to the meeting. Thank you for coming. This is to be a buffer zone behind the houses on Gillen Road. I have proof. I'm not making this up. I have letters from 4 different residents that did live on Gillen that this buffer zone was approved by the town council in around 1970s and supposed to be put on record. The names are John DeVries, Garnet Thompson, Reggie Stern's daughter, Pat, and Mick Sidney. We want the buffer zone built into the plans to ensure that a proper permit will be given out, that there will be no buildings will be built up to our back door. May I have permission to give out these letters to the council and to Mr. Emo?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And members of council, any questions for Mrs. Mask? Okay, seeing none. And if there's someone else who would like to address us? Yes, Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, through you, Reeve. If we have questions with regard to some of the issues here, can we ask them later on when it comes to the next session?
I believe so. I think that's the appropriate forum,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no further questions, I would declare this meeting to be closed at 5, I'm sorry, what am I supposed to do next? Mr. Weathers?
Sorry, through you, Revimo. We do actually have another matter on the agenda tonight that is still part of a public meeting, which is item C22. So we're going to leave that public meeting open until that matter is concluded.
Okay, item C22.
Thank you, Revimo. Just to let the gallery know, you can leave now if you want, or you can stay. Susan, that goes for you as well. You're more than welcome to stay, but if you would like to go home, that's fine. So, over here. So, moving on to the water and wastewater 2025 draft budget, including from representatives from Ontario Clean Water Agency, Aqua. I'm going to hand it over to our treasurer for the opening, please.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney. Through you. So this is just mostly a reiteration of the presentation that was at the previous meeting, but I will go through it again. So Aqua is now responsible for all of the water and wastewater except for the water meters, and that agreement was as of January 1st, 2024, and it expires 2033. They will continue to look after the treatment, so now they look after the collection and the distribution of wastewater and water. So in 2024, it was the first year that the town was dealing with collection and distribution with Aqua. So town staff at that time added a 5% contingency to Aqua's overall 2024 budget for contracted services. In 2025, staff are not recommending a contingency. We feel that Aqua and the town understand that that's not necessary at this time. There's a few reasons why the Aqua contract did increase slightly. There's salaries and benefits, so they do belong to a union, and that has increased 9.5% over 2024 due to collective agreements. In 2024, the overall responsible operator, or the ORO, pay was not included in 2024 and is now included in 2025. Several other operating costs have increased that are out of Aqua's control, such as chemicals. They're all taken into consideration within the contract price for 2025. So overall, the increase to the Aqua contract is 4.3%, and I've just done a breakdown with regards to where we were. So I'm looking at the total budget of almost 2.3 million in 2024 for the Aqua contract to almost 2.4 million, which is a 4.3% increase. Aqua also has presented the town with some major and minor maintenance as well as some capital projects. There is a list that was provided in the previous meeting as well, and I've just updated it to show where those where it's being funded from. So there's, in the first one, it's the water system, the major maintenance forecast estimate, and we did decrease the treatment maintenance projects down to $50,000 and just kind of said, well, whatever needs to happen, instead of budgeting the whole amount. And if there are further items that have to be done in the maintenance projects, they're to come to council for approval and funding later on in the year, but up to $50,000. So we're transferring from reserves $212,000, and we're going through the user fees that are set through the the rate study, we're taking 90,000 of that towards those projects, which are minor in nature. Typically, we like to fund things that are under 20,000 from user fees or taxation. Then we go to the major maintenance forecast for the water distribution, and again, we did non-specific items to be utilized as required for $50,000. And again, all of this will come out of user fees instead of transferring it into reserves and transferring it out of reserves. The town water capital, there's a number of carryover projects. The water treatment plant, the manganese treatment system is continuing on. I think it's just the holdback that's remaining. There's a standpipe mixing system, which is outstanding. Water and wastewater storage building, we're splitting that between water and wastewater. This is just the water portion. The Dominion Street, the water-only portion, and the 8th Street, the water-only portion, and those are all funded. That was funded from 2024, so that's just a reiteration on how those projects are funded for the water portion on this project. Priority project is the Mattaway Park Drive water only. I'm proposing that it comes out of the OSIF funding that we get every year for capital projects, and water mains are one of those projects that we can fund this type of work out of. There's also a proposed 2025 meter replacement. This would be year 1 of 4, and half the project will be conducted late 2025 and then early 2026. So it's all, basically half of it is one project. And Neptune, who is our water meter company, they deal with absolutely everything, the notification, the setting up appointments for residents to make appointments to get those meters replaced. So $225,000 in 2025. For water, $225,000 for wastewater for 2025 as well, and then it will repeat again in 2026, and then we'll have a better understanding of what it's going to cost for 27 and 2028, because they can't hold their costs at this time. Major maintenance forecast for wastewater treatment. Again, we're doing the non-specific items to be utilized as required for the treatment maintenance projects of $50,000 to cut that back a bit. And we are funding those items from transfers from reserves and user fees again. Major maintenance revenue, Renfrew wastewater collection, and again, it's all coming out of user fees of $130,000. So again, most of these projects, even though $50,000 is, it's more for smaller projects, it's just lumped in, they're all under like $20,000 each, so that's user fees. The town wastewater capital, again, a carryover. Elgin Street sewer design, so that's just the sewer design work. O'Brien pumping station design work. Water and wastewater storage building, there's the half of the costs. And the cross auger system design and construction of $150,000. Now there is talk that maybe the $150,000 will not be suffice, but we are taking it out of reserves, and if there is an increase or a change of plans with regards to the cross auger system, then we will be coming back to council with a report and dealing with the funding then, but it doesn't affect the overall rates, so I'm comfortable leaving it in until we get more information on that. The 2025 proposed projects, again, is the meter replacement of $225,000, half of that cost, and then the old wastewater treatment plant demolition. We're just looking to get updated costing, and then we'll report at a later date, but again, it doesn't affect the overall user rates at this time. It would be funded out of reserves or a debenture if required. So the water and wastewater summary. So overall, you do see the operating and the capital. Everything has been reserve financed, the allocation, the draft financing, the draft balance for the reserves, actually. So I'm anticipating that at the end of 2025, the reserve balances will be for wastewater or sewer, just over $1 million, and for water, almost $3 million. Water and wastewater draft rates. So this is strictly based on the rate study that was conducted in 2020, and the rate increases from 2020 to 2024 have been applied consistently, with each year's adjustment guided by the proposed framework in the study, ensuring that the long-term goals of the utility are met while minimizing the financial burden on ratepayers. So there is a difference in the base charge rates. Water meter, which is a typical residential water meter of 3/4 inch, is a 6.99% flat rate bi-monthly change, and wastewater is an increase of 1% for a total of, when you add the two together, it's 3.92%. The consumption changes, draft changes, is water 2.13 and wastewater 0.81 for an increase in consumption of 1.52. I have completed a water and wastewater average impact for the year. So an average two-person household consumption is about 120 cubic meters per year, and therefore for water, and you're looking at $285.12 in 2024. For base rates, you're looking at $305.04 in 2025, a difference of $19.92 for the year. Wastewater, $299.52 in 2024, $302.52 in 2025, for a total difference of $3 difference in that rate. So overall impact for the base rates is $22.92 for the year. I know 6.99% sounds big, but at this point in time, for those base rate charges, it's $22, almost $23 for the year impact. The consumption is based on, again, the 120 cubic meters. So in 2024 for water, you would have paid $338.40. You will now pay $345.60 for a difference of $7.20. And wastewater or sewer is $295.20, and in 2025 is $297.60 for a difference of $2.40, an overall difference of $9.60. So total year impact on an average two-person household with that consumption is $32.52. There's any questions?
Is there anybody from the public that would like to address council? Seeing none, I will turn it over to Councilor McDonald.
Thank you. Two parts to the question, Mayor, through you, and I guess to the director. Could you just explain the difference between a user fee and the reserves, because we've separated them now? Are we just, when we talk user fee, is it just we're getting rid of a step and the money that comes in goes right towards payment? Can you explain the difference there? And the second part is, are our reserves still healthy with regard to water?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The user fees are basically your user rates, so your flat rate and your consumption rates. It's what's anticipated to be collected for the year, and therefore instead of transferring it into reserves and then back out of reserves in the same year, I'm just saying those items should be covered under the regular rates, the regular income that comes in for the town with regards to water and sewer, similar to taxes. I think I implemented that last year with regards to anything under $25,000. It's going to come under the tax levy instead of out of reserves.
Thank you.
Does that answer?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm just going to give one more opportunity for anybody from the public that's here that would like to address this issue. Hearing none, I'd like to invite members from Aqua to come up to, if there's any clarifying questions from council, that they can answer the technical stuff. Thank you and welcome. Any questions, Councillor Andrew Dick?
Thank you, Mayor Sidney. Before I begin, I just want to clarify with what was said to me earlier. Please clarify, I was told that I was only allowed to speak on this topic 3 times. So I need clarification, because if I'm only allowed to speak on this 3 times, do you want me to rifle off my first time I speak, my 20 questions? Please, thank you.
Through the mayor to all of council, so your procedural bylaw that restricts 3 times is for items outside of the public meeting, so we're technically still in the public meeting, and this is the time to ask questions of our Aqua representatives, so you do not have to rhyme off all 20 at once. The 3 speaking times limit is not at the public meeting portion, if that makes sense. So it applies once we close our public meetings, because in a council meeting, we have actually paused our regular council and have entered into a public meeting at this time. Okay. And so we're in a separate meeting where the procedural 3 limit speaking does not actually apply in a public meeting.
Okay, thank you. I will come back to that then when we go, because I'm reading the bylaw right now, and what you said is totally opposite what I'm reading. So if we can have a conversation about that when it's time. Okay. So I have questions, Mr. Mayor. I have questions. I don't know if it's going to be Aqua that answers them or if it's going to be our director. Okay. So do you just want me to fire off the questions, and if they're not appropriate, you can call point of order on me?
Yeah, well, just ask your first question, and then, because you don't need to fire them all.
Okay, so I think, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, I think my first question is the water main replacement out on Mattaway Drive at a cost of $670,000. I think I have a few questions on that, and this one's more for the public. I think I know the answer. How come that's the town's responsibility and not Aqua's, since Aqua has taken over all our wastewater and water things? This is just for public knowledge. Thank you.
I'll hand that over to Aqua.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. We use the town of Renfrew still conducts all the engineering services and design work for the water and water distribution and wastewater collection system. Aqua's here to do the operation and maintenance of the system. So for more cost effectiveness, it is better to have that ran through the town of Renfrew. Otherwise, there'd be a 15% markup on any water main replacements or work done by Aqua. So it is a more cost effective. What Aqua does is support the design and the operation and maintenance during those water main replacements, such as flushing temporary services, chlorine residuals, and turbidity, which is required by OREG 170 during water main commissioning and reconstruction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for answering that question. I appreciate it. I think my next question, continuing on the water main, so the reason council in the town of Renfrew is being told we need to replace it at a cost of $670,000 is number of water breaks. So my question is when was the water main installed? Who installed it? And how old is it? And just because we're having water breaks, we have a lot of water breaks. Are we suggesting to the town that we should replace, every time we have a water break, we should replace the whole water main? So I'd just like to know when it was installed and who installed it. Okay. Thank you.
Aqua?
Yeah, so again, as Director Jackson noted, we just took over the distribution system January 1st, 2024. Part of that, it was operated by the town of Renfrew. From my knowledge of the historical, that was installed in the early 1980s. It was also a thinner walled pipe. I guess there was an issue with manufacturing of steel at that time. So it is a weakened reinforced, or a weakened water main originally from the get-go. We have seen some of my staff that used to work for the town of Renfrew have responded to over 10 main breaks on that same length of water main. So just to prevent issues moving forward and the cost of main breaks nowadays, the town is in its best interest to replace that. But from my knowledge, it's due to some manufacturing defects in the original pipe schedule that was installed in the early 1980s. Perhaps some town staff may want to take it from here, but that's from my initial knowledge.
Manager Springer?
I'll just mention that further on in the council agenda, there is a report specific to the Mattaway Park water main and has some information like date of construction and that stuff, but everything that Austin from Aqua said is what I I'm aware of is that it was a sort of a defective pipe at that time. There were some issues just in general with pipe manufacturing. In the report that's coming later, there is a map that shows multiple water main breaks over probably the last 10-year period. We had 2 last year. Yes, we had lots of different water main breaks, but they're spread out. They're in different locations. Mattaway Park Drive is like 2 right on top of each other last year. It is also the only source of water for Mattaway facility, which is our emergency center. And if there's no water, they can't flood the ice. So.
Any other questions? Councillor Anderdeck?
Thank you. Just give me a second to gather. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Where does this land on our 2022 asset management plan in fixing this water main? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Director Bishop?
Yep, through you, Mayor. I'm not sure exactly, but I can find out that information for you. It has been identified as a capital project, and I'm going to go into it a little bit later in my report, but it has been already in the design process and will be ready for construction soon. So I believe it would have been identified in our asset management plan. I can double check that for you though.
All right, thank you, Mayor Sidney. Now I'm just going to move over to the old waste treatment plant. So, Mr. Mayor, we've been told tonight that it's going to come at a later date, and right now it doesn't affect the rates at this time. However, depending, it's going to come at a later date. So, my concern is, how can we pass a draft budget if we don't know the full extent of the damage that this is going to cost? Right now, we have a 16-year delay in decommissioning this wastewater facility, and all of a sudden, it's our responsibility. It's this council's responsibility. So this is a big one. So tonight, we're being asked to pass a draft budget, yet we do not know the total cost of decommissioning this. We've been told that there's been no inspections conducted. However, we've been told that the safety there, that some small animals might get in. So therefore, if some small animals might get in, can a small child get into these spots? So I have lots of concerns with this that we're going to look at it at a later date, and yet we're being asked to pass the budget tonight, and the taxpayers yet do not know how much this is going to cost them, but we're being asked to pass a draft budget tonight with not knowing the full extent of a cost of the decommissioning of this. So I have some huge concerns with that. Are we creating ourselves potential lawsuits if something happens to a child down there? What are our environmental impacts of that right now? We don't have these answers, but we're being asked to pass a draft budget tonight, but we don't have the answers for this. So that's a big concern to me. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Those are all my questions. And thank you for your time.
And CAO, if you want to address that.
So yes, through you, Mayor, to all of council. So the decommissioning is written on the budget but has been removed from the budget, so there was no cost put in because the plan is not to do it for this year. The plan is to be getting costs to look at for 2026 and going forward. So whether we pass the budget tonight or in a couple of weeks or in a couple of months, the decommissioning of the old wastewater treatment plant is not right now budgeted for 2025 unless council asks us to put it in. Right now the plan is, we've pulled the numbers completely out of 2025 and we'll be looking at getting updated numbers for 2026 considerations. So just to clarify that piece of it.
No.
Councillor Anderdeck?
Thank you, and thank you for that explanation. I just think I'm not comfortable. The council may do as they see fit when it's time to vote. I'm not comfortable with the way this is playing out. I'm not confident in what was told to me tonight regarding this, and I will not vote in favor of this because I'm not comfortable. There's more information out there that needs to be told to the public, told to us council, and therefore I will not support this draft budget, nor if it stays like this, I will not support it going forward in the real budget. Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you to you, Mayor. And with regard to Councillor Dick's comments with liability issues, environmental issues, I know it's coming up later on tonight, but that's part of the what we're going to be voting on later on is if we ask for a report to come back and it comes back that we have some serious liability issues with regard to the wastewater plant, it may not be prudent to wait to 2026. So that is something that's still up in the air, to Councillor Dick's point.
CEO.
Through you, Mayor, to Council, you're correct that as we do some further investigations on that, if it's identified that it is something that would need to be done immediately, then a report would come to Council, and at that time it would likely be considered pulling from a reserve, most likely, or a debenture to be able to fund it. It wouldn't be impacting the actual rates, as the rates are based off of the study. And I don't know if the study specifically identified when this demolition should have been done, or assuming it already had. I haven't seen the full detail of that study. I haven't got to that document yet in the 2 months I've been here, but it is something that's on my list. But you're right, if it comes up there, environmental or other liability concerns are identified where you need to increase your timing, then that's something that would be brought in a report to Council for consideration at that time, but it wouldn't change the actual rates from a user fee standpoint, as it would be funded in a different fashion.
Councillor Andrew Dick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, through you. So I'm just listening and understanding what's going down here. So I'm just curious, like, are we adhering to the Watson Associated report from 2021 in this? Are we following it? Because, you know, I'm just being honest here with my own thoughts. If we approve the water and wastewater rates without determining the legal environmental ramifications of a 16-year delay in decommissioning the Whitewater facility, I am not, if I vote no or vote yes, I'm not being responsible to my taxpayers. I'm very concerned about this. I'm super concerned about that we are going to pass this tonight, pass this draft budget when we have no idea what is going on down there. We are not being responsible if we pass this. Those are my thoughts, and I'm going to stick by them, and thank you very much.
Councillor McWhorter.
Okay, so this is making me wonder what's going on. Did we not take this out of the budget last meeting 2 weeks ago? It's not even in the budget, in the water budget? Like,
Yes, that's correct.
so we're not even talking about this in the budget? If we vote tonight for the budget, that's not even part of the budget. Am I correct on that?
Yes, you're
we
correct.
We already took it out last week.
We took it out last week.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Councillor Legree.
Through you, Mayor Sidney, and just to clarify why I voted to remove it out of the 2025 budget was to get these, the environmental and all that back, and to put a price tag to it. I think if we learned anything from Mattaway, we can't take prices from 2019, if I remember right. It was the last time we got a quote on taking this building down and disposing of it. If anybody learned anything, we should know that we can't just take that prices and put it in. They need to update the prices and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I want to look at it in 2026 instead of 2025. So we have the exact number, dollar figure, because we don't know what it's increased from then, right? I think it was $450,000, almost $500,000 or something from 2019, but there's a massive, as we know, there's massive increase in cost of stuff between then and now. So I want to get the full picture for the residents before I decide on anything. So this is too close for me, so I want to move it to 20. That's why I voted to move it to 2026 to look at. Thanks.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it's doubled. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, to you. And with regard to the 2026 comment, I don't think that's the motion that's coming forward tonight. Yes, we have that as an objective, but the reality is if it comes back that there's, again, liability issues with keeping it that way and we have to move on it to confirm what the CAO said, then we'll deal with that at that time, right? It's a separate entity with regard to the water rates we're talking about now. Yeah, thank you.
That's correct. Councillor Andrew Dick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and through you. And I agree with what Councillor Legree said. I totally understand what he's saying. He wanted to take it out so we can value it for 2026. My concern is we know about it. That's my problem. We know it's there, we know it's a problem, and we're just going to let it go for a year, and we're going to pass this budget knowing it's there. That's my only concern legally. Anyways, I think I've talked talked enough on it. I think everybody understands where I'm coming from, and I will leave it at that. And thank you to council on their thoughts.
Thank you. My take on it is if we are moving forward with looking at new costings and looking at new environmental, we have started the process in doing it. So we are engaged in looking at decommissioning it. We just want to make sure we're factual in costs, make sure the environmental stuff is what it is, and know what we're dealing with so that we can do the right decision at the time. So it's, yes, we do know about it, but yes, we are taking action to start the process, is how I see it. Any other questions from council? Hearing and seeing none. So I am going to thank Aqua for joining us, and I am now going to call the public meeting closed at 6:20 p.m. We have no delegations, announcements, and community events. Councillor Degree.
Through you, Mayor Sidney, I just have 3 quick ones here. I want to congratulate Lisa LaCourse and her family on celebrating 30 years in business. Lisa owns and operates Mona Lisa, located at 178 Plant Street, right beside the fire station. They'll be having a celebration this Monday coming up at 10 a.m., celebrating their 30 years in business, so congratulations to Lisa. I also want to congratulate Rachel on the opening of her new business, Bloom and Beauty, which is also located at 178 Plant Street beside the fire station. It's actually in the same building as Mona Lisa, so congratulations to her and her team, and I think there's a ribbon cutting maybe in the future coming up. And then lastly, Mayor, I just want to, one final reminder to the residents of Renfrew, if you haven't already, please fill out the survey regarding the 2025 budget. I'm assuming this will be closing soon. This budget is probably going to be another tough one this year, so your feedback is very welcomed by council, so thank you.
Any other announcements? Hearing and seeing none. Moving on to E, that Renfrew Town Council convene in committee of the whole to consider reports for recommendations to council. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Degree. All in favor? That's carried. We are now in committee of the whole at 6:22 p.m. And we'll move on to E.1.1, and I am going to ask Reeve Emo to assume the chair.
We have a, excuse me, we have a motion that Renfrew Town Council convenes in committee of the whole to consider reports for recommendation to council. Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. That stupid thing go. Sorry, the recommendation is that committee of the whole receive the official plan amendment number 14, Renfrew East Secondary Plan, consultation summary, and direct staff to proceed to revise the secondary plan as recommended. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Degree, second. Councillor McDonald. Discussion, council. Councillor McWhirter.
Through you, Chair, for Director Withers. Is there any way or I'm assuming you wouldn't know this because it requires 1970 and you weren't here then. I'm not even sure you were born then, but is there any way to get clarification for the buffer zone that Mrs. Mass brought up?
Yes, thank you, and I've taken the opportunity to review the letters that were submitted. So what we'll do is we'll work with the clerk's department. Can't make any promises that we're going to find just with regards to record retention. 1970 is typically beyond the scope, but the clerks will know the answer, and whether if we have the information, we'll bring it to council and we'll let them know the situation. But just in the review of the materials, it would appear that at the time of annexation of these lands from Horton Township in 1970, because of the original proposal for industrial use of the property, there was a negotiation of a buffer zone along the rear of those properties, but we will certainly investigate it, and whatever we can find we'll bring forward to council. Thank you.
Parliamentary.
Just to follow up, so is this something we can look at? I totally agree. If I had a house there, I certainly wouldn't want a big factory pounding out steel or something next door to me or in my backyard. Is that something that would normally be part of the development if that's the case?
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, my apologies. So I think what is worth noting is whereas the former land use was industrial, what's being proposed now is residential, low-rise residential. So likely single detached dwellings would be backing on to these properties. Most of the properties are quite deep and have a significant amount of vegetation on the properties that separate the rear lot line from the closest part of the dwelling, and in most cases the amenity areas as well. I believe there's one property that's cleared all the way to the property line, but most of them have maintained effectively a stand of trees on their property that should provide a good screen, a good buffer in terms of visibility. We could consider an additional buffer on the property, on the town's property, through an EP zone or an agreement or something like that. It would be somewhat unconventional in buffering residential from residential. They're not considered to be conflicting land uses. I think the main concern is with regards to privacy. I would understand, and this is just the initial look at it, I would understand for an industrial proposal. And those proposals in the 1970s probably didn't have the same framework, but now we have the D-series guidelines from the MOE that prescribe minimum buffer zones. So that would have likely replaced any, and would have exceeded any negotiated buffer that was negotiated with council. But when you're talking about a residential to residential interface, it is not common to have a vegetated buffer. In some cases, you know, a screen in the case of, you know, large intensive residential development. But when we're talking about low density to low density, it's not common. That said, it's not out of the question. Council can certainly, you know, designate some portion of the rear of those properties, or on the other side of the rear of those properties, as environmental protection or something to that effect. That said, we wouldn't want to set too much of a precedent, so we're going to need to navigate this fairly carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald, then Councillor Legree.
Thank you, Reeve, through you. Directed towards Director Withers. I received 2 emails earlier on, and I forwarded them for your attention with regard to the mapping process that's included in this. The issue is to protect residents' information, and is there any way we can do the mapping and the presentations and in the same time protect the information of existing homeowners? Because the issue is, from the correspondence that was received, that it lowers their, even though it's a vision for us for the next 20 years, it affects their ability and their property values. So is that something we can look at to somehow remove the exact locations of different residences from the mapping as we move forward?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. We can certainly look at removing residences. However, if I would caution against obscuring the exact location or the likely location of future infrastructure. What you'll get on the other side of that is folks in 10 years, 20 years that moved to the area and say they didn't know that a road was going to go there. So we have to walk both sides of that tightrope. It is common to have the specific location of road networks and infrastructure identified in long-range plans. You could say it is kind of germane or essential to long-range planning to identify. That's actually why we're doing the planning, is to identify what the solutions are going to be, how we're going to service an area, how we're going to access an area. So I wouldn't recommend removing the location or the property fabric, but we can. I don't believe there are any buildings identified on the schedules, but we can remove the location of any dwellings or any structures that are shown on the plans, if that would assist. Thank you.
Sorry, supplementary?
Thank you, yeah, and I think specifically because it's a 20-year long-range vision, and I can see their argument or their concerns, so if that's something we can look at, thank you.
Councilor Legree, please.
Through you, Remo, to Director Withers. Just looking at the map, I'm just wondering if there's any thought that went into, again, with like a buffer zone, to Mrs. Mask's point, with regard to the trail, the Algonquin Trail, because there is some like high-rise, looks like high-rise residential that's buttoned up against that. I'm just wondering if there's any thought put into that with noise, people living there, and if the Skidoo and ATV clubs were brought in for their thought or comment on any of this?
Yes, thank you, and through you, Remo. So the county typically comments on development applications adjacent to the Algonquin Trail, and they request notices on title, including warning clauses that the trail is there, that there is noise that emanates. They typically don't ask for a noise study because the noise that comes from that trail isn't sustained enough to warrant an actual noise assessment or the implementation of like construction methods that would mitigate noise, but they do request warning clauses on title. Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Very quickly, the consultation summary. I note Enbridge just said they don't object and reserve the right to include development conditions. Can you offer an explanation on that? I'm not sure I feel comfortable with them having that kind of an override.
Thank you, and through you, Remo. So that's boilerplate language that we get from Enbridge on every development application. It doesn't change. I think all they're really saying is that on future development applications, they reserve the right to request conditions on those, and that would be just fine. Thank you.
Thank you. So just a supplementary to you. So when we have a development out there, if there's, say for the sake of discussion, 50 lots, would they then map out where their pipes or their lines are going and then map where they're going to the property line for hookup? Or because we've had some struggles here with things appearing in the ground that nobody has a plan for on occasion.
Yes, thank you. And so in response to that, so the modern method that you go about designing a subdivision is you undertake a detailed design exercise that includes the development of what's called a composite utility plan that includes bell, hydro, gas, cable, fiber, all of the utilities. They typically follow a common trench in modern subdivision design. So more commonly where we encounter difficulties is where there is work done in an existing subdivision and they do directional boring underground, and there's not really good data on old infrastructure, and they directional bore, in some cases through infrastructure. So that's the challenge we typically have in new development. We don't encounter that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Council, you've heard the motion, you've heard the discussion. Is there any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? None. It's carried. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Remo. Moving on to E.2.1, agreement with Sunshine Coach Services. That the Committee of the Whole recommend that Renfrew Town Council enter into an agreement with Sunshine Coach Services for reimbursement of any service fees incurred by the town from Grant Match Corp. For government grant applications on behalf of the Sunshine Coach Services. Mover, please. Councillor McWhirter, second by Councillor Legree, and I will turn it over to our treasurer, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Sunshine Coach is a service that the town supports, as well as other municipalities support with regards to accessible transportation. This agreement will allow Sunshine Coach to go through grant match, which does charge a service fee upon successful application to any of the governments. So there's no charge unless they are successful. Sunshine Coach themselves cannot apply, so the town will do the through grant match, they'll do the application and all the background work. The town will be the signator for any grant application that they forward to the governments, and if there's a fee, if they're successful, technically we're successful, then any of those fees that are charged to the town will then be paid by Sunshine Coach. I just wanted to make sure that the ratepayers are not responsible for any of those fees going forward, and this ensures that there will be no impact to the town ratepayers with regards to that service for the grant application process.
Thank you. I just want to remind council that we are just discussing the entering into an agreement with Sunshine Coach for this specific thing, this only. Councilor Legray?
Through you, Mayor Sidney. So we're just basically like a TPON account, like we're just transferring the money, and are we responsible, like they have to meet the grant, like if they don't meet something, are we responsible for that? You know what I mean? Like it's part of the grant, like, or is it, do you understand what I'm saying or no?
Treasurer?
Through you, Mayor Sidney. So if there's any, we didn't address that in the agreement. This is just strictly for the grant match, but we would make sure that they're following all the reporting requirements and ensure that there is no issues with regards to grant applications and grant reporting if successful in the end. I feel confident that Sunshine Coach is willing to work with the town, and as well the other municipalities that partner with us through the transit gas funds that the Sunshine Coach has access to, that they would support any applications that are brought forward, and we would ask for a letter to be issued from those municipalities as well. But yes, we would be ultimately responsible for the grant reporting, and that isn't addressed here, but we could add that if so desired. I don't feel that there would be any issue with Sunshine Coach, and they will work, Grant Match will work with Sunshine Coach directly. It's not, as far as the application, I am just, as the treasurer, I would just be the signator in the application process and not anything further, so there's no time. It's just this time to get this in place for hiring a grant match on behalf of Sunshine Coach.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Rebimo?
Thank you. So should they be successful, is there the opportunity for us to apply an administration fee? Because I think we would be responsible, ultimately, from what I heard, to forward the information around to the other municipalities, or at least collect it, and any recording in the final report. So that's going to take some expenditure, and I imagine the funds would come to us, and we'd either distribute them in whole or in part. So I'm wondering, is there the opportunity, and should we include it as an item 4 in this agreement, should they be successful?
Treasurer Jackson?
Thank you, Mayor Sidney. So currently, with any agreements that we have for the transit funding through the gas tax, Ontario gas tax, we do not charge an administration fee. There never has been. The other municipalities don't contribute money towards that fund. What they do is they allow for their population and their assessment to be included in the overall allocation for those transit funds moving forward. There is no administration administration fee. It's not really applied for. It's kind of, we make sure that the province has all of the letters and bylaws that allow those municipalities to, for us to use those assessments and populations, and we provide that. It's very minimal administration fee, as well as this is going to be very minimal. They'll be doing most of the reporting, and I'll be just checking the reporting requirements to ensure that they're done correctly and on time.
Thank you.
Councillor Andrew Dick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and through you. And just to touch base on what Reeve Emo said, so just from my understanding, the Sunshine Coach is used all across the county. That's a question? Is that correct?
Yes. Well, not all across the county. There's partnering townships. Treasurer Jackson.
So the Sunshine Coach is just utilized through, there's several municipalities, and I think it's just 6 that are close by with the town of Renfrew. In the city of Pembroke, there's Pembroke Handy Bus, and they utilize the municipalities that are close by, Petawawa, Laurentian Valley, Whitewater Region, some of those municipalities. So they service those municipalities for accessible transportation, as well as the town of Renfrew with the means that they have. The accessible transportation is available to the residents, those 6 municipalities that we partner with currently. And that's it. They don't have a business across the county.
Thank you. And just 2 more questions.
Okay.
My first question, I just want it on record. Clerk Aaron, I was talking. Just point of order, I don't know what to say. Like when I'm in a conversation and I look up and you two are having a conversation, it's a little...
clarifying.
So clarify, go ahead. Mayor Sidney, let's have a clarification.
Sorry, through you, Mayor. You had started your comment. I got looked for procedural advice. I gave a note to the mayor that you had not reached 3 questions and that you were proceeding.
Okay, so Mayor Sidney, through you then, let's talk about the 3 questions. Can we go there? Because I'm looking at the bylaw right now, and what you're saying is not right. It's not correct. So let's look at it.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Can I ask for a little bit of decorum here?
It's very disrespectful that when I'm speaking that you don't know the bylaws. You don't know, and you have to get clarification. That's very frustrating to me.
I don't understand what you're saying, and I don't think this is the time or the place to discuss this.
So I think it is, because you're telling me I'm only allowed to have 3 questions, respectfully.
No. What you can ask, there's 3 times you can talk about this. If you have 3 questions the first time, that's fine.
Well, let's look at the bylaw, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor. Can we do that?
I don't think it's on the agenda, so I don't know how you want to handle this, CAO.
Although this topic's not on the agenda, if there's a request for suspension of the procedural rules, it could be discussed about right now. It would be a motion for that, which I believe Councillor Dick would like to suspend the rules to be able to discuss this matter.
Yes, please. Mayor Sidney, I'd appreciate that if we could do that.
Do we have a seconder for that?
Wow.
Revimo? And we need 2/3 vote, correct? So I'm correct on that? Yes. Yes. So we do have a mover and a seconder, so all in favor of doing this?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Councillor McDonald?
Sorry, just a clarifying question. Is this to put it on the table to discuss it, or?
Yes, it's right now. So all in favor, we need 2/3 of a vote to discuss this now.
So just so I'm clear, the discussion is to suspend the rules to go ahead with the conversation about the specific nature of the bylaw?
See you.
Through the mayor. So yes, this motion right now is to permit the discussion of the procedural bylaw, section 8.6, to be discussed right now, which is not actually on the agenda. So this motion is just to allow to speak to something not yet on the agenda. Once this motion passes, then that matter would be allowed to be discussed at the table.
supplementary, and I guess to my friend, is this critical to any conversation we need to have tonight, or can we wait and put it on the agenda while we all have a chance to take a look at it? And I'm not being facetious, I'm curious.
May I speak, Mayor Sidney?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm surprised. The bylaw is right here. And what you're saying is not what the bylaw says. And my fellow councillors will not put this on the table to discuss. I'm astonished. It's right here.
Okay.
But I can't talk about it.
Councillor McDonald.
I wasn't not putting it on the table. I wanted clarification as to where we're going, that's all.
That's all.
So the vote hasn't taken place
right.
yet, as far as I'm concerned. Am I correct?
That is
Thank
correct.
I apologize. You did say all in favor.
No.
Okay, then my apologies.
All right, so we need 2/3 of vote to have this discussion, so I'm not going to ask for the vote, please. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Now we can discuss it.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney. And
Now,
thank
before
Yes.
you go, would you like the CEO to give a background on this? Or do
No,
you just
I'm
wanna-
quite okay. I got it right here. I'm just going to read the bylaw.
Okay.
So I've been told tonight that the bylaw is we're only allowed to ask 3 questions on a certain topic. The bylaw 8.6 speaking limit. No member shall speak more than 3 times to the main question without leave of the presenting officer, except an explanation of a material part of their speech which may have been misunderstood, but they may not introduce new information. To me, the main question. So every time I ask a question, that doesn't mean 1, 2, 3 questions. I'm allowed to ask as many questions as I want to represent the taxpayers of this town, but I'm only allowed to speak on that question 3 times. That is how I proceed this bylaw 8.6. Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
So through the mayor to Councillor Dick, the rules of debate, which is where this section falls in, generally when it's referencing the main question, they're talking about the topic on the agenda. Yes, it is very ambiguous wording, I will say that. I have never interpreted it that way, and I don't believe it's ever been interpreted that way here. So that would be a ruling either by the mayor as to whether it counts each question as a new main question or whether the main question is the item on the agenda.
Councillor Anderdet.
Therefore, I am asking for clarification tonight. Am I being handcuffed to only ask 3 questions on each topic that is presented? Or am I allowed to seek information and ask as many questions as I want to represent the taxpayers of Renfrew? I really need this clarification, please. Thank you.
So from my understanding is it's 3 times to address with a couple of questions or 3 questions in that one time. But if it's pertaining to and it's important, we can, like, we have never done this before. The idea behind this is to keep the meeting going, because we have, there's lots on the agenda, and we could be here till 1 o'clock in the morning. So it was just sort of to kind of streamline our meeting, and I'm not trying to deter any councillor from asking any question. I just believe that, if it's warranted and you feel it's necessary to keep hammering questions, then I'm okay with that. I just wanted to try and streamline the meeting, so not to withhold questions or anything like that. I'm very cognizant of staff time and everything that we can get to the matters at hand in a timely fashion, I guess is the way I would like to say it. Revimo?
Thank you. Your Worship, and I think through you, the concern I would have is if someone wants to filibuster, supposing there's something on the tail end of the meeting that they didn't want brought up, and filibuster by asking a series of questions on any number of topics without regard for time, and maybe not providing any new information for a conversation, just to ensure that we got to the time limit, and then have the item fall off the table or not come back till the next week. So I understand the principle of it, and I don't have the procedural bylaw, so I don't know if there's anything about filibustering in the bylaw. I can't recall, but that would be my understanding of it. And the question, I've been asked this question before when I've chaired meetings, and the main question for me is either the motion or the title of the this section is the main question. And any other questions are either directed in the sense of new business or brought up with a separate motion or an amendment to the motion would be my suggestion. But again, I think it's not to prevent discussion, it's to prevent someone or a series of someone's trying to monopolize the time to run the clock and maybe to avoid conversation.
Thank you. Councilor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So I'm safe to say it's a guideline, that just like we did right now, we can amend it by a vote, or if it gets into a filibuster, we can also amend it to shut something down if we feel that's warranted, right? So with regard to the 3 questions, I see it as a guideline with room to maneuver if we need to. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Anderdick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to my fellow councillors for bringing this to the table so we could clarify it. I'm okay with the way I behave because this is me. I'm not going to apologize for my questions. I've heard the rumblings through Town Hall that I ask too many questions. I don't know what I'm talking about, and you know what? I don't work for those people. I work for the taxpayers of Renfrew, and I will ask as many questions as I want for clarifications because that is my job. And I thank the council for allowing this to come on the table tonight, and I will close with that.
And just while we're closing, I just want to be clear, this is not intended for any specific councillor. I talked to every councillor before the meeting just to explain that. It wasn't directed at any per councillor. So any other questions on this?
I'm sorry, is there a motion? Is there a motion we're discussing? I can't recall.
So through the mayor, I believe this was just a discussion topic. There was no actual motion for a decision or anything. But we do need to return back to the open vote on E.2.1.
All right, so we'll go back to E.2.1, and I'll read it again. That the Committee of the Whole recommend that Renfrew Town Council enter into an agreement with Sunshine Coach Services for reimbursement of any service fees incurred by the town from Grant Match Corp for government grant applications on behalf of the Sunshine Coach Services. So any other questions about that? Councilor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, to you. And it's going to be arising later on in I.2, that it's a matter arising directly from the Committee of the Whole meeting. And just to clarify, this isn't staff-driven. It was the applicant who applied with a soon-to-be deadline. Am I correct on that?
CEO?
So through the mayor to Councillor McDonald, yes, the request from the applicant came in after the last council meeting's agenda finalized, and so we couldn't get it on that. The due date for the grant, I believe, is March 5th or 4th. So it's one of those, it was before the next meeting, so that's why it would need to be looked at in one meeting alone, just the timing of when we received the request versus when the actual application does close.
Thank you. Any other questions? Revimo?
Yes, this one. Are they subject to our procurement bylaws? I don't believe so because none of us sit on their board, but since they are financed in part by the grant money that we flow through, it's just a clarification.
Treasurer Jackson.
Through you, Mayor. So they would be subject to whatever the grant application procurement process is, and therefore, yes, because we would be the applicant, they would be subject to the procurement. But everyday normal business, I have no idea what procedures they follow. But yes, through this process, this grant, or whatever grant that they apply for, through grant match, through us signing, they would have to follow the proper procurement process.
Thank you. Councillor Anderdick.
Thank you, Mr. Sidney. And just to follow up with Revimo's question, therefore they would have to follow the town of Renfrew's bylaws.
Treasurer CEO, you want to handle that one?
So through the mayor to Councillor Dick, for the capital purchases involved with this grant, theoretically, yes. All of their other expenses, no. So it would only be the items in relation to this grant application.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none. Thank you. That's carried. Thank you, Council. On to E.4.1, Mattaway Park Drive water main. That the Committee of the Whole receive the Mattaway Park Drive water main replacement report as information. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor McWhorter, and I will turn it over to Director Bishop.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So as previously discussed earlier when Aqua was here, as well as Manager Springer, the Mattaway Park Drive water main replacement has been identified as a capital project in the upcoming years. The design was awarded to JP2G Consultants in 2023 through delegated authority. So a little bit of background on this water main. There are two different water mains, one from Lisgar into Hague and then Hague to Mattaway Park to the dead end. And it's believed that the section from Hague to Mattaway Park was installed around 1983. It's a 200 millimeter diameter water main. So Manager Springer mentioned before that this was a bad run of pipe. So there were issues when that was installed based on just the material that was installed at that time. So over the past several years, there have been a concerning amount of breaks in that section, just from Hague into Mattaway. And we have approximately 12 incidents reported, several in the past year or so. So every time the water main breaks, the water shut down to everyone on that road as well as at the MyFM Center. So that affects the tenants, the ice pads, and the staff at MyFM, as well as all of those residents. And typically it's about 8 hours if the water main breaks. By the time there's notification, it's about 8 hours until it's fixed, and that could be much longer depending on the situation. So I've noted that there are costs for contracted services each time it breaks, as Aqua is involved, and the water main is at a depth greater than the depth that Aqua and the town staff can work at, and then as well as patching that road after the break. So at this point, we're recommending that this move forward for budget deliberations, as it's pretty detrimental to have that water access into Mattaway Park. And JP2G is currently preparing our tender documents, and this project will be tender ready. Thank you.
Any questions from council? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you, council. Moving on to E.4.2, the Public Works Garage. That the Committee of the Whole receive the Public Works Garage report as information. Mover, please. Revimo, second by Councillor McWhorter, and I will turn it back over to Director Bishop.
Thank you, through your Mayor, to Council. This report is further to CAO Ray Bones' report, Concerns Identified Among Town-Owned Facilities, dated January 28, 2025. So she indicated that the Public Works Garage be prioritized in our 2025 budget due to safety measures. The garage was constructed in 1962 and currently is in a state of disrepair. The roof and the floor are showing major signs of deterioration, as well as many other items in the garage. So there are very hazardous conditions for staff, and these have been identified before, but due to budget constraints, lots of these have been pushed over the years. So it's, at this point, has become a safety concern, and I've attached photos in our Appendix A to this report. And some of the major concerns were identified in CAO Ray Bones' report, including some of the support beams are rotting and rusting and have gaps at the base near the floor. The floor is cracking and very uneven, very unsafe. There's significant water issues. The roof is in very poor condition, so there's a lot of leaking in there, leading to damage and mold. Outside walls are rusting and caving in, and there are many other issues identified in the photos. The building has been discussed as part of budget deliberations since 2005, and in 2013 a building condition assessment was complete. At that point, most of the major building components had reached their useful life, and it was recommended for replacement several years ago. There was another building condition assessment prepared in 2023, and we had a 10-year forecast from that. In 2024, items were identified were about $400,000, and items in 2025 totaled about $935,000. I can note that the full roof assembly was identified as part of the 2024 budget, but was postponed due to budget constraints. So at this point, none of the repairs from the building condition assessments in 2013 or 2023 were actually completed, and the building is in a severe state of disrepair. Thank you.
Councillor Legree.
Through you, Mayor Sidney. So I agree, looking at these pictures, I've said it before. I thank the staff that goes in there every day and does their job. They shouldn't have to work in that. I was going to put a motion through for staff to look into options, because I've seen the pictures a million times. I've seen the repairs. I've been to the building. It was in bad shape when I did co-op there in grade 12. But I see we're going to go into close later and talk about, so I'm going to leave it for now to see what comes out of that, hopefully something good. And then if not, then we'll direct staff. I'll put a motion in to direct staff at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a statement. I find it frustrating that this state of affairs was allowed to continue for so long, and my apologies to the crews that have had to work under these conditions. And I believe Council is actively trying to deal with this situation now, so thank you.
Any other questions from Council? Hearing... Okay. Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Yes?
I don't know if we're allowed to do this, change the procedure. I was just wondering if we could jump down to F, as we have the BIA all sitting here patiently. I just thought maybe if we could do the procedural change up if we're allowed, and we could jump to F.
Yeah, we need a motion to suspend the rules.
Can I make that motion? Am I allowed to do that?
Okay.
Absolutely, if that's the desire of council. I would note that that would pull us out of committee of the whole. So we would note that, and then we'd have to go back into committee of the whole.
No, I didn't. Thank you for that clarification. I apologize to BIA. Sit tight.
Sorry. My apologies.
That's okay. E.5 Library Community Recreation Services. E.5.1 Memorandum of Understanding between the Town of Renfrew and the Renfrew District Food Bank regarding the Community Garden Report title. And that is... Sorry, my computer's not cooperating. There we go. That the Committee of the Whole recommend that Renfrew Town Council enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Renfrew District Food Bank in regards to the community garden. Mover, please. Councillor Green, second by Councillor McDonald, and I will turn it over to Director Latondras.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So this is just for several years now. The Renfrew District Food Bank has assisted the Town of Renfrew and its residents by providing materials and support with the community gardens at Oddfellows Park. It was just the wish to finally sort of formalize it going forward, so that as things change or go forward, there's something in writing that kind of outlines who does what there. And so this was just an MOU that was put forward to kind of solidify the partnership.
Any questions from Council? Revimo?
But I like this. I like the service. I like the idea of an MOU. Just some points to ponder. Is there value in adding a piece about waste pickup and maintenance of the rest of the property, just the level of care of the property, just so there's no confusion in 4 or 5 or 10 years? Insurance. I'm assuming our insurance will carry all the risk on this, which I'm fine with. And then finally, is there a provision for pets? Because some people like to take their pets in when they're working on their garden. So is there some conversations around that? And I don't like complicating it, but in just taking a critical look at rules and wondering how I would break them, then that's how I come to these things.
Director Latondras?
Yes, so they have actually provided insurance, their proof of insurance for their area. we can add in that. I would caution, it's still kind of considered a public park, so if we're going to start limiting animals, stuff like that, we can definitely look into it and see how it works in other areas, because all of the beds are, they have planters like wood around them, so they're not just right in the ground. It's there's a little bit of protection from that. But yeah, we can definitely look at adding some other points to the agreement.
Review.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Council. On to the Office of the CAO and Town Clerk, E.6.1. That the Committee of the Whole recommend that Renfrew Town Council appoint one council member and one staff member to a 2025 Citizen of the Year Award Working Group, consisting of one council member, one staff member, 2 anonymous community members, and 1 anonymous local business owner. And further, that Renfrew Town Council authorize the council member and staff member to exclusively select the 3 remaining committee members who will serve as the selection committee for the 2025 Citizen of the Year Award. Mover. Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor McWhirter, and I will turn it over to Coordinator McMillan.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So as you'll see in your report this evening, this is for consideration for Council tonight for the upcoming volunteer awards that will be taking place at Mattaway through Canada Day this year for 2025. Just a bit of history for Council on this. So traditionally this was the volunteer awards were traditionally run by the Chamber. However, last year the Chamber moved more towards their business recognition and a little bit out of the public recognition. So the town has taken on the volunteer awards. Specifically because it was identified as a high priority item in our Road to 2035 strategic plan. So really what we're looking for Council's consideration tonight is how they would like to see the formation of that nomination committee for the award recipients. So as you'll see in the recommendation put forward, traditionally the Chamber had done 5 individuals, and we are requesting that it would, to meet the needs of meeting both town, community, and council, we're requesting that council appoint a council member and a staff member to then appoint 2 community members and a local business owner. However, should council wish to do pick another way to form that committee, we have provided a few other alternatives there that council may want to consider too. Thank you.
Councillor Andrew Dick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and through you. Thank you very much for the report, and thank you for the options, giving us all of them, and the impact of the options. That's really appreciated. Great work. I know option 1 is what the staff seems to want, and I have no problem in supporting that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from Council? I have a clarifying question to the clerk. Are we going to do this like we've done in the past, where if a council member is interested, we'll do like an email point of it, like, you know, I want to submit my name kind of a thing, like we've done in the past? Or how are we selecting the council member?
Through you, Mayor Sidney. So yes, we could with the appointment of a council member, unless there's a name that wants to be put forward directly tonight. Otherwise, I can circulate an email to council looking for an expression of interest, and then depending on who expresses their interest and what names come forward, then we can have that discussion at the next meeting.
Revimo?
Might be better to go with the interest because Councillor Stabolski's not here, and it's not really fair to him.
I agree. Council's okay with that? All right. Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. E.6.2 Policy Review, Electronic Monitoring of Employee Policy. That the Committee of the Whole recommend that Renfrew Town Council approve the suggested amendment to the electronic monitoring of employees policy, and further that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward. Mover. Councillor Degree, second by Councillor McWhirter, and I will now turn it over to CAO Raybone.
Thank you, Mayor, to all of Council. So in my report, you'll see that this is a policy that is required under the Employment Standards Act that we must have, that if there are any ways in which employees can be monitored in electronic formats, then we are to make sure that we have a policy and that it be provided to all of the employees. And if there are any required updates, we are required to review those for consideration consideration before March 1st every single year. So we've reviewed through, and really the only change in this one is updating the contact information from the former CAO to myself going forward. So right now, that's the only one what we propose, is we have no expectation from any departments of any new software or anything that might be tracking in different ways than what we already have documented. So that's why that was the only recommendation for an amendment at this time.
Any questions? Review?
Yeah, I hate to be that guy. I'm wondering, do we need to notify the tenants at Mattaway, One Innovation, at Town Hall, and at 450 Hall? Because it talks about our assets on our properties, and these people are going in and out of those properties all the time.
CEO?
So through the mayor to the Reeve, the legislation only requires us to provide to employees. I believe most of those tenants are aware that there is cameras in the facility and that there are door passes to certain areas of that facility. We're not specifically required to identify to them, but most individuals who know they have a fob to be able to get through a door into, say, the fitness center, typically understand that that can be tracked, but there is no legislation I am aware of that requires us to specifically inform them of that.
Supplementary. There was some funds, I think, from the province for a CCTV system on somewhere in town. Would this policy cover that, or would we need a separate policy when that eventually occurs?
CEO?
So through the mayor to the Reeve, that is in relation to one that was obtained in partnership with the former police service board. So it would be one that would not be utilized by us. It would be utilized by the OPP. And so it's not a way that we're monitoring or tracking employees, because we don't have access to that. It's not something that we have to include in our specific policy, but that would be covered under a separate bylaw when we get to that point of the noting the specific locations.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, Council. E.6.3, that the Committee of the Whole recommend that Renfrew Town Council approve the suggested amendments to the rights to disconnect policy, and further that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward. Mover, please. Councillor Degree, seconded by Councillor McWhirter, and I'll turn it back over to our CAO.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to all of Council. This is another policy similar to the last one, which is required under the Employment Standards Act. Every organization that has more than 25 employees is required to have one of these policies. It's very important to note that these policies do not create new abilities and new rights for the employees. It just requires the employer to document what the rights and expectations are that are provided to them. So there's obviously certain departments that have maybe less right to disconnect due to emergency response requirements for firefighters than other departments that might not need to respond to emergencies after hours. When we reviewed through, there was only the only change that I'm recommending is that we move it to responsibility of the CAO outside instead of the clerks, as it is one that is applies to the whole organization. And in my job description, it's my requirement to ensure that all policies on corporate-wide are being managed and implemented correctly. If council does not wish to change that, that's fine. The only change then we'd be looking at is updating the contact information from the former clerk.
Any questions from Council? Councillor Andrew Dick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney. Just kind of two questions, two clarification, maybe questions. So my first question is, in case of emergency, any council member sees anything on the street after hours, we're contacting the CAO. And then the CAO will contact whatever department needs to be contacted.
CEO?
So through the mayor to Councillor Dick, that is correct. So obviously if there's emergency or immediate needs, I respond to phone calls after hours unless maybe I'm on vacation and out of province or something. But by that point, we would also then identify in those type of situations who you would call instead of myself. So that's where it doesn't create a new right where you cannot contact me. It's just that it has to be documented that I need to be available for those type of emergency situations, and it would need to be disclosed to me. Just like we have to disclose to the firefighters that they may be called, paged for an emergency response, that certain managers of certain departments will be required to be on call due to weather incidents that we need to be responded to in, say, Public Works. So this is where it doesn't create a new right, it just requires it to be documented so that everyone is aware of what's expected of them.
Councillor Dick?
Thank you for that answer, Mayor Sidney. The next is more of a comment / awareness for the staff. I think hopefully they all understand that council emails them at all hours of the night and all mornings, but I do not expect an answer back until working hours. So I hope everybody understands when they get an email at midnight from me, I'm not looking for an answer the next day. So I just hope all the staff understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. Revimo?
Sorry, just for clarification, so we do have a Public Works emergency number, and that's the one I've used when there's been an issue and what you can be described as Public Works. So do we ignore that now and contact you directly? Or?
CEO?
So through the mayor to the Reeve, when it's a Public Works emergency, it's still best to use that line, as that will get you the fastest response to an immediate need, such as there's a water main break and water is flooding all over the road. It is faster to use that contact, so none of that part is changing. It's just if there's some other matter where you're seeing something that's not necessarily deemed emergency, where something we already have a call system set up, then that would be the stuff that you would call me directly for.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, council. E.6.4, review and clarification of council remuneration. That committee of the whole recommends that Renfrew Town Council approve the amendments to Section 4, 5, and 6 of Bylaw 92-2022 to add clarification to council reimbursement, and further that staff bring forward the necessary bylaw amendment for approval. Mover, please. Councillor McQuarter, second by Councillor Legree. And just before I turn over to CAO, there will be a draft of this coming back to us, so just turn over to CAO.
Yes, so through the mayor to all of council, this is to get the initial thoughts of some of the proposed draft wordings to help remove some of the ambiguities and to clarify so that everybody is aware of what is and isn't to be reimbursed, how reimbursements are to happen, whether it's a reimbursement or flat rate when it is involved with food. When should restrictions maybe on the number of attendees at a single conference should be applied, or whether that will be of a concern to council or not. So this is the time where we're discussing all that. All of the changes that council looks to tonight that you would like to see, we will bring forward in a draft version at the next committee of the whole for a better view of what that will look like, so that we can then provide council a better idea of what you would be voting on.
Councillor Gray.
Through you, Mayor Sidney. So I'll take a stab at this first, I guess. So 4.1 I'm okay with. Mileage should be set at the rate by the CRA. I also like 4.2 where the meal allowance is set by the Canada's directive on travel, I guess, the government website one. I'm not 5.6. I don't get too excited about that. Like advance payments, I just think that would be a bit more of complicated for staff or the clerk, I guess, because they're advancing councillors' money and then keeping track of receipts and then getting money back. Is that how that would work? From, like, say I get advance $1,000 and I spend $600, I'd have to credit you back to $400, or how is that? Yeah, I just think that I don't think we're traveling too far. I think that's So I'm not okay with that one. The rest of it, I think, is, and the other one I like is, we budgeted $3,500 per councillor per year. I think if Councillor A doesn't use all his money, I think that it could be shared amongst like another councillor, because we have budgeted that amount anyway. And then due to personal reasons, some councillors might be able to attend more than others, and so I think that money should be able to be moved around. So that's my thoughts.
Councillor Andrew Dick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and I think I definitely agree with what Councillor Laguerre is saying. You're getting into some things when you're giving money ahead of time. I just want to throw my 2 cents in because it is a draft, and then you can have my ideas too. I like the idea of having a set amount of money to go. I want to give an example to the public just so they understand, because it is your money that we're spending. We were down in Roma, and I went out for breakfast with a developer who wants to build 350 homes in the area. He's from Toronto, and I met with him, and the town didn't reimburse me his breakfast. I had to pay for that. So I think we should be given a certain allowance to go out and do as we see fit, because in all honesty, when we attend these conferences, we are attending on behalf of the taxpayer, and we are working due diligence. That's just, I'm just throwing some ideas out there. But yeah, other than that, that all looks good. I just think we should have a little more leeway with certain amounts of money when it comes to meals and stuff like that. So, thanks.
Any other comments from council? Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, my opinion would be federal government rates. If you go to a course or something, and I know with Roma, in some places the lunch was included, you just prorate or get rid of that portion. I worked in environments before where you get the money before you go down because it's all calculated. I have no problem with that. I don't agree with receipts. I think that's archaic if we're going with a per diem. And I agree with sharing unused portions. Last year I used a very minimal amount, and I had no problem giving it to another councillor, or if there was another meeting for them to go to. The one thing I would like, and I'll throw this to you, Mayor, is that if we can have a more pre-planned approach to it, so that we're not everyone's going to Roma or AMO, and there's other ones out there. Maybe at the start of a year, have an idea of sharing the workload of councillors going to different activities that are out there, not activities, but different courses or whatever that are out there. So maybe that's something we can look at the start of a year, and that's my input.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Laguerre?
Through you, Mayor, actually to you, I guess. Just clarification, so should we put a motion now to move forward to council, or how?
Clerk?
Or the clerk, I guess, yeah, sorry.
Okay, through you, Mayor. So a lot of what council stated tonight, both has already been identified in CAO Rayburn's report, as well as some of the added notes and recommendations were suggested. So I believe the intent would be to take this back. We would draft the amending bylaw. That would come back to council under committee of the whole for more discussions at that time, and then on the, I believe it's council's will, on March 25th, and the final bylaw would be approved at that time. So there's opportunity, and I believe I've captured kind of the comments, and a lot of what has been said has already been identified in the report.
Perfect. Thanks, Clerk.
Any other questions? Hearing none. I'm just going to offer I agree with the shared dollar, because just for an example, and I'm going to use Revimo as an example, he never uses his because he goes through the county. So that's there. So, you know, I've used his in the past as a councillor. So there's things like that that give opportunity for council to continue to do things and stuff. So I agree with that as well. Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, council. E.6.5 proposed 2025 corporate work plan and goals. Excuse me. That the Committee of the Whole recommend that Renfrew Town Council adopt the 2025 corporate plan and goals as presented. Mover, please. Councillor Degree, seconded by Councillor McWhorter, and I will turn it over to our CAO.
Thank you, Mayor, through you to all of council. So all departments have been working hard on coming up with the corporate work plan and goals for 2025 based off of the strategic plan, and some of the ones that were nearing completion at 2024 that will be finishing up in early 2025. We've provided here the report as it currently stands with some of the ones where they are carryover as to where they're currently sitting percentage-wise. We're looking at if council would like to see anything else added or something removed or postponed. This would be a good time for that direction, so that way the departments know what they're working towards and trying to accomplish throughout this year.
Any questions from council? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. These are more like guidelines. Is that the... Is that what I understand? If something pops up, and where I'm going with this is something pops up during the year that we deem to be a bit more priority, as a council, we can redirect and bring something to the table, correct?
CEO?
So through the mayor to Councillor McDonald, that is correct. So anytime new items pop up, whether from emerging situations, change in legislation, various other matters that have come up that might change the priority of something where we originally thought we might have had till 2026 or 7 to do. If it needs to be pulled forward, there would be discussion at the time in that report as to what item, if we get limited timing off of the current one, would need to be postponed to focus on the newer, more emerging priority. But there's always the option for council throughout the year, if there's changes that need to be reflected, that we can reallocate our time, keeping in mind that some of these goals then may get postponed or deferred depending on limited time available.
Any other questions from council? Revimo?
Comment, page 19, number 7, I'm assuming you mean fire instead of tire? And then...
Yep, that would be a typing error.
Yeah, that's the only one I noticed. So congratulations on that, with all those boxes. So I'm wondering if we should include a couple of things. One is a commitment to look for shared services with our municipal partners, and or maybe the hospital. I don't know, and I'm not suggesting anything specific. And the other thing is when there's a position opens up and prior to recruiting, that the business plan comes forward for it that says there was that there was an examination of either shared services or a combination within the organization, just so that people can see that. Because I know we have those conversations, but I think it should be part of any reporting function. And then the last thing is there are some items from the third-party review and then the amalgamation of the two departments and then the review of the finance department. Is it possible to track those with a bit of a report card or a report at the end of each year so that people can see that we've made progress on them or not? Because we spend a lot of money, we get questions about them. And I'll be honest with you, I can't remember how many we've accomplished. I know we've accomplished, I'm guessing, about half if you combine all three reports, but I don't know that for sure. Thank you.
CEO?
So through you, Mayor, to the Reeve, in regards to the last item, that is something that we can definitely pull a report together as to what we've accomplished throughout 2024 in relation to the steps that have been taken to address the items identified. I can definitely add in a shared services one, which would then encompass your second item as well. That part of that commitment would be then investigating any potential options and providing reports before recruitment occurs. So I can definitely add that.
Thank you.
Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Reeve, is that more or less, can we even go with an annual update with regard to the matter of review findings? Is that what you're talking about? And I like that.
Yeah, I think all of it through you, I'm sorry, Your Worship. I think all of we had those three big reports, and each one of them had a series of recommendations, and it would be nice if we tracked the ones that are completed and which ones we thought we might do this year, and are they going to be stretched out over 3 years or 4 years. I think the original plan called for most of them to be complete by the end of 2026, but I don't recall, and I couldn't find it in the scramble yesterday.
Okay. Councillor Gray?
Through you, Mayor Sidney, I fully agree with the Reeve. Just want to touch on the shared services because that's something I ran on. I think looking at budgets coming through from all the municipalities, things are getting tighter and tighter every year. There seems to be less money and everything, expenses are going up and up. So I'm glad that you said that because we really need to look at shared services and stuff like that. It's just kind of where we are nowadays. So thanks.
Review.
If I might add, the HR contract that we have with the county is a perfect example of something that that works for us on an as needed basis. So there might be other things that we could do like that, and it might be with other municipalities as well. In terms of recreation, they may need someone to rake and line their ball fields, and I know Councillor Andrew Dick will straighten me out on that, but there are maybe some services that we can offer in that area, as well as training, and so there's some things that I think we can do.
Great. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, Council. E.7. That Renfrew Town Council rise from the Committee of the Whole. Mover, please. Councillor Degree, seconded by Councillor McWhirter. All in favor? That's carried. We are out of Committee of the Whole at 7:30. I would like to just say to Council, if they are okay with it, if we wanted to jump down to F.3 and do the BIA budget so they can leave, and then we'll take a 10-minute break if anybody wants. If we want, Council's okay with that? All right. I need a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Andrew Dick, second by Councillor McDonald. All in favor of moving to F.3? That's carried. Thank you. All right, here we go. First of all, thank you for your patience. And whoever is coming up to the delegation table, if you want to, I believe the treasurer and the director. And the motion is the Renfrew Town Council approve the Downtown Renfrew BIA 2025 proposed budget as described. Mover, please. Councillor Degree, seconded by Councillor McDonald. And I will turn it over to the director if you have anything you'd like to say. Okay.
I thought it was just for questions.
All right. Council have any questions? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, and I'm just going to pull it up. And I just, if you can touch up on it, or sort of mirror through you, thank you. Prior to this BIA reorganization, some businesses did not pay a levy and others paid too little. And all properties included in the original BIA zoning bylaw now pay the same ratio and levy. And the BIA did not expand its boundaries. Rather, as part of the overall review of the BIA, we ensured all businesses were treated fairly. So this boundary has been in effect since 2012 by the county. And I could be corrected on that, but I think that's the reality. But much like a lot of other things that were being done in town, never really got action. So I'll, if you want to touch up on that, please, Wanda, thanks.
So we brought businesses in to bring the BIA up in accordance with the designated downtown map that I believe was done in 2012 by the county. So basically we have Raglan from Hall Street to Monroe, so subway to Circle K down to Monroe, and we've extended that down to Bridge Street. And then we had one side of Argyle and one side of Plant with the side streets included in there. So all we've done is bring in the other side of Argyle and the other side of Plant, because one business was in on this side and a business across the street was not. So that's essentially what we've done, is just bring it in accordance with the designated downtown map.
Review.
If I might, I would suggest to you that the map that's referred to the county map was likely done at the request of the town, because there's no legislative relationship with the county of Renfrew and the BIA that I'm aware of. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Anderdick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and through you. And I just want to thank the BIA. You guys do some amazing work, some great events. I think you're very valuable to the town of Renfrew, and I appreciate everything you do. I do want to stress something. In your advertising, marketing, branding, you have $3,000 put aside for generic advertising and social media. Right now, the County of Renfrew is doing a Think campaign, meaning shop local, buy Canadian. And it's been a frustration of mine the last week because I've attended many meetings on this. And all these businesses, including municipalities, I saw a municipality today do it, they're asking their taxpayers to support Canada and support local, but yet they are paying to have their advertising on social media. Facebook in particular, whose CAO has strong ties to Donald Trump, the US president. So I'm not, personally as a taxpayer in the town of Renfrew, I'm not comfortable with my tax dollars going into social media advertising. I'm going to vote in favor of this. I'm just telling you as a taxpayer, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not going to tell you how to run the BIA. I trust you. You're going to do the right thing. And I just wanted to throw that out, that I think it's super important that businesses who are practice what they preach, so to say. So anyways, great job. Keep up the great work. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you.
Councillor McWhorter.
Sorry, through you, Chair. I guess I'm new to this budget. I'm totally lost here. I don't see any revenue. I show $105,000 for a budget, but would there not be revenue from the businesses, like their dues, or no? Like what you charge other businesses to be part of that? Should that not be part of your budget, or am I missing something? Sorry.
I'll turn it over to the Treasurer.
Yes, through you, Mayor. So the BIA levy is passed through council, and it's billed on the tax bills. So this is we are be budgeting $105,000 for the BIA, and then we'll collect $105,000 from the BIA members, the properties that are part of the BIA.
Thank you. I'm just used to our budget where I see both sides of the ledger. Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, and I just want to state that it's not an increase from last year, it's the same rate, correct? Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you for your patience and that quick, so appreciate it. Thank you. Does council want to take a 10-minute recess? Okay. We will come back at 1:45.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to move on to F.1, County of Renfrew Advocacy Update, the Think Campaign, Highway 17 Advocacy Campaign. And Revimo?
Quickly, I think it's readily understood. It's think local and also about Canada in your purchases and any interactions. And if you go on our website, you can find every business, I believe, or most businesses in Renfrew County listed alphabetically under the municipality. If you go on the Renfrew County food, it'll talk about who produces food and where you can find some. And so it's, we're going to keep pushing that as hard as we can and adding more components to the campaign as we move along. With regards to Highway 17, if you go on there, you'll see all of the papers that we've produced over the last 5 years, I believe. So if you're talking to anybody that has any influence, you can cite some documents and or the contents. As well, there are sample letters for organizations and individuals should they wish to send them to the new Minister of Transportation, which we should know by the middle of March. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to F.4, Economic Development Advisory. Oh, wait, no, sorry. Went too far. F.2, Downtown Renfrew BIA meeting minutes of January 13th and January 20th, 2025. Any questions on those? Councillor Degree, do you have anything you want to add? Or?
Through you, Mayor Sidney, I'll just touch on a few things. So I sit on the BIA board with Councillor MacDonald. Attached are the two meetings, January 13th and the 20th. I'll just quickly touch on a few of the items. So the board was informed of the new CAO hiring on January 6th. Both Councillor MacDonald and myself met with Director Bishop regarding the snow removal from the main street. I will note that staff did a great job at the last. There was a lot of snow that came down there, and they got it cleared out really good off the main street. So thank you for that. The flowers on the main street was discussed, and I'm happy to report that Milligan Landscaping will be doing the work again this summer, which is great news. The flowers last year looked awesome, and I don't think I had a complaint at all. So the board was also updated. The board was updated. The town has sent out a survey with regards to a moving or stationary parade. Councillor MacDonald noted any feedback from the board would be welcomed. The board also approved their procedural bylaw, and that's pretty much it. If there are any questions, you can reach out to Councillor MacDonald or myself. Thanks.
Thank you. F.4, Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting minutes of January 14th, 2025. Councillor Cebulski is not here. Any other member of council want to add anything about the minutes? Or if anybody has any questions, you can reach out. We're good? All right. Going on to G. The Renfrew Town Council confirmed the minutes of the regular meeting of council dated February 11th, 2025, the special meeting of council dated February 18th, 2028, and the closed meeting minutes of February 11th, 2025, understanding that they remain confidential. Mover, please. Councillor MacDonald, second by Councillor Degree. Any questions on the minutes? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. On to H. So H.1 to H.6 is information that we have received. Does council have any questions or would like any clarification, or anybody wants to add anything? Councillor Andrew Dick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and I just think it's important that the two residents, B. Dillabo and A. McCormick, both their correspondence was answered by the CAO, so that's much appreciated.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Review?
I would ask council to consider supporting the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus sample motion that was forwarded. And you'll note there is the one section. Oh, where is that? My apologies. It screen split all of a sudden on me. There is the one thing that we added to it when it came from staff was to ensure that, first of all, we're part of all a coordinated Team Canada approach, and then there's also a note in here about indemnifying Canadian municipalities should there be any kind of a trade issue. meaning that if we went Canadian and somebody appealed it, that we'd be indemnified. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Just review, do you want to do a motion to ask for a letter of support or anything like that?
If you would allow, Your Worship, I would make a motion that this, that we pass a motion endorsing the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus motion on tariffs and trades, I believe is the top of it.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Andrew Dick. Any questions on that motion? All in favor? Opposed?
Oh, sorry.
That's carried. Moving on to resolutions, matter arising from committee of the whole. The Renfrew Town Council adopt the following resolutions considered in committee of the whole on February 11th, 2025. 1, the Renfrew Town Council received the 2025 water and wastewater draft budget and proceed to a public meeting on February 25th with the final adoption at this time. 2, the Renfrew Town Council consider the construction of additional sidewalk segments along Argyle Street South and Patrick Avenue as change orders to the Argyle-Lockheed construction project in 2025 budget discussions. The Renfrew Town Council directs staff to bring forward costings on moving 6 cement poles from Rushlow Field to Seeley Field and further adding 2 additional poles with associated lights and wiring for consideration. The Renfrew Town Council adopt the proposed policy review schedule for the years 2025 through to 2030 with annual review ratification of the schedule. The Renfrew Town Council approved the updated organizational chart and further that the appropriate bylaw amendment be prepared. The Renfrew Town Council authorized the staff to bring forward an amending bylaw to formally designate the Chief Administrative Officer and respective department director as the Committee of Council designate for the purpose of union grievance in conjunction with support from the Renfrew County Human Resources Department. Mover, please. Revimo, second by Councillor Degree. Any questions? Councillor McDonald?
Yeah, I'd like to have number 6 removed and placed on the floor for further discussion, the last one. And for that one, I'd like a recorded vote when we go to it, please.
So I'm not going to read them all over again. So 1 through 5, all in favor? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there.
Sorry, Mayor Sidney, and I do apologize. I can't find this on my computer.
I.1. There should be a little gavel there. Matters arising from committee of the whole.
I.1?
Yeah.
I have nothing. I have nothing on my computer.
Yeah.
That piece of paper.
Got it? You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. Thank you.
So we have a mover and seconder for these. We're going to vote on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So all in favor of those? Opposed? Hearing none. Did you want a little more time, Councillor Anderdick?
Sorry. I am totally off because I am behind the enrollment. I do apologize. So right now we are voting on 1 to 5.
Yes.
And number 6, we're pulling out to have a conversation and the vote on that separate.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to pull out because I thought the Renfrew Town Council receives, are we receiving the water and wastewater draft budget? Because down below it says we are voting on it. I don't mind receiving the report, I don't want to support it. So in this, we're just receiving.
Clerk.
With final adoption at this time. So when are we final adoption? At our next vote? I do apologize. I will say sorry to this because I'm totally lost.
Through you, Mayor Sidney. So the original recommendation that came forward at Committee of the Whole on February the, February 11th, was that town council received the 2025 water and wastewater draft budget and proceed to the public meeting on the 25th with final adoption at that time. So that was the resolution that was made in committee of the whole. That portion of the resolution has come forward, so being that the Renfrew Town Council received, so you've already received it, you've had a public meeting on the 25th, and final adoption at the same time. So all three things have been identified in that motion.
Thank you very much, Clerk Aird. So I want to pull this one out because I don't want to support this one. I want to pull one, please, Mr. Mayor.
Just a quick clarification, Mayor Sidney. So you had called a vote, and it was carried.
Yep. No, sorry, Clerk Aird is 100% correct.
We can note.
We can note. I was just, because honestly, I have nothing on my computer.
Okay.
I have nothing.
Strange.
You could note that he was an A.
Yeah.
I didn't put up my hand, so, and I'm fine with that. Okay, I'm fine with the way the direction's going. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, just make sure we can do that.
Through the mayor, so that can be done. I'm just letting you know that technically the bylaws to actually pass the rates and the budget is one more motion. So if you want to have it heard as a recorder or something, you do have one more chance on this agenda.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so on to 6. The Renfrew Town Council authorized staff to bring forward an amending bylaw to formally designate the Chief Administrative Officer and respective department director as the committee of council designate for the purpose of union grievances in conjunction with the support of Renfrew County Human Resources Department. So, mover for that? So we can get it on the table. Grievimo, seconded? We need to get it on the table if we want to talk about it. Councilor McDonald. Before, I'm going to clarify something. This is only for union grievances. This is not the HR liaison council member for HR matters that has the terms of reference and all that stuff. This is solely just for the grievances. So I just want to make that clear. All right, open for discussion. Councilor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. And I'd like a recorded vote too. I think I mentioned that earlier. 2 weeks ago, Mayor Sidney, you stated we have great, highly educated staff that are all well paid to do their job, and I absolutely agree with this statement. However, we can't simply have blind trust, but we need to verify operations as they go forward. It is my opinion our HI designated council agrees should be a part of this so that we have direct fingers on the pulse and in a timely, proper oversight period for council. And 2 weeks ago, this was also the staff's recommendation to go with that. It is my opinion we need our HR council representative on this group. In particular, did we not learn anything from our Town of Renfrew renovations and the Mattaway project? And that's my driving force with regard to this. There should be a proper council oversight on HR issues before it even comes to council, and that's my opinion. Thank you.
Any other council recorder?
Through you, Chair. Also, in the past, we've always had, that I remember, we've always had a representative from council on HR, including for union contracts as this state. So I don't see why we shouldn't have one today. I'm not sure why we don't, but I think it's a good idea to have one member of council on to represent the rest of us, and I'm not for this. I think we should change it.
Councilor Gray.
Through you, Mayor Sidney. So I was very disappointed with some of my fellow councillors with regard to this vote that happened in committee the whole 2 weeks ago. The town has been going through some tough times. We've been dealing with the overscope Mattaway Centre expansion and the many other things that's faced us in the last 2+ years. We've had a big tax increase to the residents last year, and even though we're just getting into budgets now, I can tell you it's not going to be good for 2025 either. It's now the council needs to put their best foot forward for the residents of the town of Renfrew and keep a finger on the pulse of everything that has a financial tag attached to it. Even though I have full respect for the staff within the town's organization and the county, I don't believe now is the time to remove a councillor that is currently sitting in on these union grievances. Grievances. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, so I'm going to need to have is there a motion to amend this? Because currently it states that bring forward an amended bylaw to formally designate the Chief Administrative Officer, respective department director as the committee of council designate. So we need an amend the motion. If so, are we voting on this solely?
Does it fail first?
Sorry, do we need to amend it? Because
we just vote on it.
Yeah, we just vote on it, and if it's defeated, everything stays the same. And if it's not defeated, right? We just vote on it.
Yeah.
We don't need to amend it.
Okay, no, we're good.
I don't know.
No, that's good. All right, so I have no more questions. Do you have anything you want to clarify? No? You good? CEO?
So through you, Mayor, to all of council, if it is defeated, we will need to pass another one because we do have a grievance on the table that I have to have the designated committee because we don't actually have a committee. We have an HR liaison, so I still would need a designation or a motion that if it's going to be just the council member, that's fine, but it needs to be clear for a grievance that has just come in that I need to have clear. So if this one's defeated, that's fine, but we'll need to have then a new motion, or we can amend this one as to who that designate of council will be. That's all.
Right, so I will now ask for a recorded vote on the motion. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Mayor Sidney, can we open back up questions? I think Councilor Recorder and I both have a clarified question.
Okay, go ahead.
So my question is, does staff still stand by their recommendation not to have a councillor on the grievance portion of HR only?
See you.
So through the mayor to Councillor Dick, the recommendation at the last meeting was actually with the HR liaison in, and that one was originally voted down, and asked to go with a different option that was in the report. So the original recommendation was for the HR liaison, myself, and the director of the department that is involved. In conjunction with support from the county's HR department. It was defeated. A different motion had come forward after that at the last meeting where it was just the CAO and the director with the HR support. So this original recommendation still had the HR liaison in there.
Councilor McWhorter?
Through you, Chair, that actually answered my question. My question was, what happened to the HR liaison that we had? I was only gone one day. Did you guys remove him? Like, I don't know, I was away one day, but I'm sitting here flat-footed going, what happened? We've always had an HR, and we've always had representation from council. I don't think it's a good idea, particularly now with budget restraints going on, that we lose that. I think we need somebody on.
Councillor Anderdick.
So just to clarify, so we're all on the same page, because I'm not sure if Councillor McWhorter, so we're not removing an HR liaison, we're removing an HR liaison just from grievances.
That's correct. Right.
So through you, Mayor, the union contract specifies the HR committee. On, I believe it was May 1st of 2024, our committee was disbanded and you went to the committee of the whole system. So you have an HR liaison, but it had not been formally documented that that would be your designate in place of that HR committee that no longer exists for the purpose of the grievance. So that's what it is we just need a formal documentation from council that we can then provide to the union saying this is the new designate because we no longer have the HR committee. Does that make sense?
Any other questions? Hearing none. Councilor McWhorter?
So to be clear, what are we voting on now? Voting to go without an HR representative from council? Or voting for one? I'm not sure.
We're voting to have the CAO, the respective director, and as the committee with Renfrew County Human Resources. So without a liaison for just union grievances. Okay. Councilor McDonald?
So if we don't amend it right now, it's going to be voted the way it is, which I understand. But then to your point, through you, Mayor, to your point, CEO, we still have to come up with something. Am I right?
Yeah.
Through the mayor, that is correct. Councilor McDonald, you'd still need to do a motion of designating who your representatives are now that you do not have an HR committee. So even if that's just the HR liaison, I still need to have a motion or something on the table to address a current active grievance.
Councilor McDonald.
Thank you. I guess I'll put forth an amendment to the motion. I still want a recorded vote, and I guess it's to go back to the original one, which was version 1, that staff recommended last time. So if we can look after that, and we can go for a vote. Clerk?
Okay, through you, Mayor Sidney. So just for some procedural clarification, the amendment you're asking to go back to the original recommendation is a little more complicated than just an amendment to the motion. In that, if that is the intent, what I would suggest is that it go to the floor and be voted on. If defeated, then you put forward the other motion. Otherwise, an amendment would be to add or subtract words. So an amendment could be to add the HR liaison. Right, so an amendment is to add or subtract and not change the intent.
So the amendment is to add the HR liaison person. Thank you for the clarification.
Just so I'm clear, we're still going to vote on this one.
Mover.
Okay, so I need a seconder. Councilor McWhirter, any discussion on adding? I just want clarification. If we do add it to the motion, we still have to vote on the motion, correct?
Through you, Mayor Sidney. So so we have a mover and a seconder for that amended motion. It would go forward for a vote. I'm assuming that the intent, and Councillor McDonald can clarify, is to have that part recorded. And then if it carries, then the original amendment, or the original motion, sorry, would be amended to include the HR liaison. And then that would be put to a vote.
With a name, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Mayor?
Yes.
Mayor? Yeah, just to, through you, just to confirm that recorded vote, please.
Yep. All right. So we've now amended it. We have a mover and a seconder. Any other further discussion? All right. All in favor? And we're going to do recorded vote.
Okay. Through you, Mayor. So starting with Councillor McDonald, as he was the one who requested it.
In favor?
We go Councillor Legree.
In favor.
Councillor McWhirter.
In favor.
Councillor Andrew Dick.
Opposed.
Revimo.
Opposed.
Mayor Sidney.
Opposed.
It is defeated as the vote is tied 3-3.
Moving on.
You have to go back
to I.2. Sorry. All right. My bad.
And Mayor, again to that one, a recorded vote, please.
So back to the original. The Renfrew Town Council adopt the following resolution considering committee of the whole on February 11th, 2025. The Renfrew Town, where am I here? It's just went away. Oh, you already separated. The Renfrew Town Council adopt the following resolutions considering committee of the whole on February 11th, 2025. 6, that Renfrew Town Council authorize staff to bring forward an amended bylaw to formally designate the Chief Administrative Officer and respective Department Director as the Committee of Council designate for purposes of union grievances in conjunction with the support of Renfrew County Human Resources Department. And it's moved by Revimo, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Any discussion? I'll ask for a recorded vote on this, please.
Through you, Mayor Sidney. So again, it was originally requested by Councillor McDonald, so I will start with him.
Against?
Councillor Legree.
Opposed.
Councillor McWhirter.
Opposed.
Councillor Andrew Dick.
In favor?
Revimo. Mayor Sidney?
In favor.
It's defeated 3-3.
Now what?
Through you, Mayor Sidney. At this point in time, it could be tabled, so a motion could be raised to postpone. No.
So through you, Mayor, really the only suggestion I can make at this time, as a decision does need to be made, is I do have a timeline on a grievance that we have to meet next Monday morning. That at least temporarily for this grievance, if council can make a decision as to what this one should be, and then it can be discussed in greater detail for all of them. I don't know if council would be open to the single instance possibly, as I do have one that is scheduled for Monday that I must have a designated committee.
Revimo?
So can the committee not proceed as is now? Because if there is an instance in the past where one member couldn't attend, the committee went forward.
So through you, Mayor, there is no committee yet. That's the situation, is we don't actually have an HR committee. So that's where I'm needing a designate from council as to what will act in place of an HR committee. So.
Councilor McDonald.
Perhaps if we can have the HR liaison do it for this specific situation and then move forward with something else when we have a full slate of councillors. I'll throw that out.
Is council okay with that for this one? Review?
I would make that motion, yes.
Okay. Seconder, Councilor McDonald. Councilor McDonald. Any discussion on having our HR liaison for this particular one and then revisit it? Yes, Councilor Dick.
So I'm confused. If we're okay with him doing it this one, I'm just so confused.
Councilor Degree.
So can I don't think I'm allowed to do this, but I'm going to ask, can I ask council why they don't want council of representative to sit in an HR grievance? Like, maybe they can explain to me why they're voting against it, so that maybe I would change my mind. Maybe they have a good reason, and I would change my mind. But to Councillor, to Revimo, Mayor Sidney, and Councillor Dick, my question would be, why would you not want a representative from council that doesn't cost the taxpayers any money, that's there representing council? Why would you not want somebody there? That's my question to three EUs.
So respectfully, I think that's a broader discussion to have. I'm more than happy to support this motion to get it for the benefit of the corporation, but if we need a broader discussion, I'm more than happy to participate another time.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So the motion is to keep the liaison, our HR liaison from council on this grievance, and then to revisit it in the future. So, any other questions, Councilor McDonald?
If there's a sense of urgency, as opposed to just a generic in the future, what about for the next council meeting in 2 weeks? Can we put it on to that agenda?
Yeah. Through the mayor to Councillor McDonald, this conversation can come back on a generic nature at the immediate next meeting, but that it does allow for us to deal with the situation we do have pending at this time next week.
Thank you. All right. Any more discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you, council. Reeve and McDonald. Matters arising directly from the committee of the whole meeting. The Renfrew Town Council adopt the following resolution considered in the Committee of the Whole on February 25th, 2025. E.2.1, the Renfrew Town Council enter an agreement with Sunshine Court Services for reimbursement of any service fees incurred by the town from Grant Match Corp. For government grant applications on behalf of the Sunshine Court Services. Mover, please. Councilor McDonald, seconded by Councilor Degree. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, council. Moving on to bylaws. I'm going to do the bylaws individually. That bylaw listed on the agenda February 25th be taken as read and passed. 14-2025, adopt various human resource policies, amending organizational structure policy. Mover, please. Revimo, second by Councilor McDonald. Any discussion on this one? You okay? So we have a mover for 14.25 and a seconder. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. 15-2025, appoint a Treasurer Jackson. Mover, please. Councillor Andrew Dick, seconded by Councillor Legree. Any discussion? Councillor Andrew Dick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and through you. And just so everybody knows, before I talk about this, I am going to support this motion. I just have questions understanding how we got there. So it was always under my understanding that council, so Acting Treasurer Jackson was hired. I believe council voted for that position. And it was just always my understanding that council would vote on any director's job moving from an act to a full, like treasurer. Like, I'm just confused how we got here, because I don't remember any of this. And again, I have no problem supporting it. I just want to know how we got there, because I always thought council hired the directors. That was my understanding. So we could just have some clarification, so moving forward, I know what's going on. Thanks.
See you.
So through the mayor to all of council, unfortunately I don't have the full history with only being here for 2 months, but what I have found in the records is that in the delegated authority, that is correct, that the CAO can only hire or fire people below a management level. So it would be council who would be involved in directors. I am not sure what specifically transpired as to why this would have been done without a council resolution at the time. Unfortunately, I can't find information in relation to that.
Okay, so thank you for that answer. So the next question is, moving forward, council, any director being hired, it will come directly to council.
Yeah.
So through the mayor, that is correct. The final decision would be council's decision as per the policy.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, council. 16-2025 Sunshine Court Services Grant Fee Recovery Agreement. Mover, please. Councillor Degree, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Any more discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, council. And 17-2025, adopt the 2025 water and wastewater budget and user rate fee. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Degree. Any discussion? Councillor Andrew Dick.
Just a recorded vote, Mayor Sidney, please.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Sidney, as it was requested by Councillor Andrew Dick. I'll start there.
Opposed?
Councillor Legree.
In favor.
Councillor McWhorter.
In favor.
Councillor McDonald.
In favor.
Revimo.
In favor.
Mayor Sidney.
In favor.
It is carried.
Thank you. Moving on to K.1. I'll read the motion. Whereas the town of Renfrew decommissioned the old wastewater treatment plant in 2009, and whereas costing for demolition, which included environmental considerations, designated substances, design and construction oversight, and demolition, was last tendered in July of 2018 for a total bid of $397,720 excluding HST. Now therefore be resolved, the Renfrew Town Council, in preparation of the 2026 budget deliberations, direct staff to seek out a current estimate for the demolition of the old wastewater treatment plant, addressing both environmental and liability issues and town obligations. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Degree. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Anderdick opposed. That is carried. Motion's none. Any notices of motion? Councillor Anderdick?
Thank you, Mayor Sidney. I have 5 notice of motions I'd like to bring forward tonight. So my first one is to have a full report on all reserves and a spreadsheet where all reserves are allocated.
Okay. Hang on. I'll just make sure the clerk gets all that.
Yeah. Just if Clerk Hart wants me to read it again. So maybe I'll put it in layman terms and then she can put it in political terms. What I think would be valuable is to have a spreadsheet of exactly where all our reserves are. And at the end, the total budget. And I'm not allowed to discuss it, so yeah. I'm just letting you know what I'd like to see.
Okay.
Please.
You good? Number 2?
Number 2, I'm requesting a notice of motion to have the CAO and mayor have a one-on-one conversation with each council member to seek their advice and their direction on the direction that we would like to see the 2025 budget go towards, which direction a one-on-one conversation.
Number 3?
Okay. Number 3, I would like to have the public meeting regarding the 2025 budget after the draft budget is complete. That way the town people can actually look at the draft budget, then maybe fill out the survey, then have the conversation.
Okay.
My next notice of motion to have a complete zero tolerance hiring freeze moving forward for the remainder of 2025. And my last one tonight, to ask the staff to look at the pros and cons of abolishing the taxi bylaw within the town of Renfrew if allowed by the municipal government. That's everything. Thank you, Mayor Sidney.
Anybody else? Hearing none. Closed session. The Renfrew Town Council convene in closed session with Director Bishop, Coordinator Collins, Town Clerk Eric, Director Latondras, and CAO Raybone, remaining in the room pursuant to the following sections of the Municipal Act 2001, Section 2392C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, Section 2392K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, more specifically how it relates to potential lease agreement, Public Works Town Garage, CK. Mover, please. Councillor Degree, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Any questions? All in favor? We are now enclosed at 8:25. Welcome back, everybody. Great discussion, Council. I just want to read a motion that's coming out of closed. The Renfrew Town Council directs staff to continue conversations regarding a potential lease agreement for the Public Works Garage and further options be brought back to Council for consideration. Mover, please. Councilor McDonald, second by Councilor Rivimo. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Upcoming meetings and Council committees. Regular Council meeting, March 11th, 2025 at 5:30. Economic Development Advisory Committee, March 11th is canceled. And now under the confirmatory bylaw. There we go. That Renfrew Town Council adopt the confirmatory bylaw 18-2025 and that it be taken as read and passed. Mover, please. Councilor Degree, seconded by Councilor McDonald. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. We are now adjourned at 9:07. Great, unique meeting. That was a good one.